It's okay. Um,
Hey guys, welcome to the Q&A. Thanks so much for your questions. We've got a couple here. We haven't rehearsed anything, so we're kind of just free flowing, and hopefully we can do it all in one little video.
yeah, just gonna wing it, eh?
Okay, first question.
What's the biggest storm out at sea you can remember? Okay, this question's been asked a few times. We haven't had actually, like, at least on our boat, crazy storms, because we kind of have, like, we have time. We always check the weather forecast pretty thoroughly, and we don't really go out sailing if it doesn't look safe enough. But we've had a couple like uncomfortable
Yeah,
weather conditions. Not
probably the worst was coming into Canary Islands from Portugal. Was probably the worst we've had so far.
Yeah, and what happened?
Just we had some decent seas, and we had the third reef, and maybe 30-35 knots. But it was really uncomfortable, and we were downwind, and the boom was dipping in the water, and we only had it for about 12 hours, but it was enough to be on edge, you know, especially after 4 days at sea, and you're right there, and we went over the shelf, so I think that's had something to do with it. It kind of jacked up the waves in quite a short period. So it wasn't great, but we managed.
Yeah, for non-sailors, we had like 3 meter waves, more than 30 knots winds, which is very strong winds, and very little sail out. And when you get into the Canary Islands, you may get the famous acceleration zones, which means the wind picks up speed in between islands, and that happened to us during the night and just at an inconvenient time because the engine wasn't really working. It didn't really want to get into gears, so it was stressful, but it wasn't a storm. It was just very stressful. And with our first boats, we had kind of a dodgy situation. We got caught in crazy fog, very little visibility during the night.
We couldn't see the front of a 7-meter boat.
Yeah, we couldn't see the front of the boat. And we didn't have an engine on the first boat
at all.
It was pretty much rudimentary sailing.
Yeah.
And
Pretty
yeah,
bad.
so we couldn't move, and we could hear that there were container ships, the big boats around us.
Right off La Coruña.
Yeah, in La
Near
Coruña.
Cabo Finisterre.
In
Loads of
Galicia.
traffic. It wasn't ideal. The forecast was wrong, and we kind of got caught out, but we survived.
Yeah, it was just scary because we were just praying, please, I hope they can see us on their radar, because we didn't have any electronic devices to see how close to us they were.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's kind of the 3 first questions. What's the biggest storm out at sea you can remember? And then Kiara kind of went off on a tangent, and is it something sometimes scary? Have you been in scary situations, which is what we just spoke about? And what's been the most scary moment out in the open ocean? So that's kind of, we kind of did 3 in 1 there.
Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, cool. Next question. What about money? Do you need it to live? Well, yes, of course we need it to live, just like everyone else, I think. We definitely live with less. We on a pretty tight budget, and we've just been living off savings really, which are pretty much non-existent anymore. So that reflects on how we live. So we don't go out and eat in restaurants all the time. We usually buy food from the market where it's really cheap, and we stock up where we can, where it's good prices. We sail as much as we can. We don't really use the engine, and when we do, it's such a tiny engine that it's really, really economic.
Yeah, we spend like 1 liter per hour when
Yeah.
we use the engine, and you have to take into account the starting off point of living on a boat. So like obviously, like he was saying, we don't have as many costs as people on land. Like we don't pay rent, we don't pay bills, we're pretty much self-sufficient. We produce our own electricity and all of that, and so pretty much all the costs are for food.
Yeah.
Visas, if we need to pay for visa when we get into a country,
And boat parts.
and boat parts.
Boat parts
Yeah.
is probably the most expensive, yeah. Keeping the boat running.
Yeah, the most expensive time of owning a boat is definitely when you go through a refit or a yard period when you're fixing the boat.
Yeah.
That would pretty much pair up with normal land life because you still have to pay rent for the shipyard where your boat is parked, and yeah, boat cars are super expensive. But
Also, we have a small boat that's pretty simple, so we've
Yeah.
done one in that respect to keep it simple because when things get complex, they get way more expensive pretty quick. Anyway, next one,
Yeah.
Kira. Fly all over the place. This is the next question. Do you have the best life or want to come back on the boat? Thanks so much, whoever that was.
thank you.
How do you
It
manage?
is wait.
Who was it? That wasn't my question.
That girl we met in Sao Nicolau in Cape Verde.
Ah, Vicky.
It is the best life,
Vicky,
but
we met Vicky when she
uh,
came out of the mountains by herself. She was walking, hiking by herself through the bush. She came out, asked for a lighter, smoked a ciggy. Super funny.
Yeah, and
Thanks,
I was
Vicky.
I
Didn't
just
know it was you. Sorry.
wanted to point out it is the best life from the outside. Obviously, Instagram is not reality, and
It is hard sometimes.
it is hard. It's
Especially with her.
like with any style of life, it's just very hard to portray the full story of it, and
Well, it's ups and downs. It changes. And Okay, next one. How do you manage to be self-sufficient in water and energy without going to the marina? Okay.
okay, so
You do you want to go? Or do you want me to go?
we can do it together. Solar panels, like we mentioned, we have 2 solar panels,
200 watts.
200 watts
Total,
total, which is actually very small if you are a boatie, if you live on a boat, it's small, but it's enough for us. And we have a wind generator which also produces energy,
Oh, really?
and that is enough for laptops, phones, devices,
The fridge,
the fridge, the lights in the cabin at home.
nav lights,
Then we carry
instruments, all that's cool.
we carry 3 gas bottles, 3 propane bottles for cooking. It's probably too much, but I don't know.
Easy out here where it's sometimes not easy to get, so we got an extra one in Cape Verde and it's been really
Yeah.
good. We're actually in the Canaries. Then with water we have 125 liters in the boat built into the keel.
like a tank
Yeah, big old
inside.
tank. And then we actually just got some more in Dakar for the rivers, some more water so we could shower and kind of just do more things. But we have altogether, I think it's 75, 115 liters outside. So together it's 240 liters of water on the boat,
Yeah.
which is enough for us to shower and keep going for a couple of weeks, depending on how much pasta we make or how often we shower or if we rinse the boat but generally here we can pat into a village on the mainland or
And ask for
hotel
water,
and just fill up
yeah.
the jerry cans, and I mean 50 liters could last us a week if we were desperate, easily.
And we drink the water from the tanks. Since we've arrived in Africa, we just treat the water with a little bit of bleach, and that's supposed to sanitize it. And I think we get water maybe once a month, to say like some sort of statistic. Like it's pretty random, but
Maybe twice, yeah. It's been good.
once or twice tops. So like we don't need to be anywhere near to supplies for a month almost.
Yeah. Marinas, the same thing. We haven't been in marinas since Portugal.
2019.
Yeah. But to go back to
The question?
Yeah, we should.
What's the next question?
How often do you get fresh food? Whenever we can.
Yeah.
Generally every couple of days. We love going to markets and seeing what's there, so
Yeah.
if we're near a village, we usually spend some time of every day in the village, walking around, chatting to people, just going to the market if there is one. There's not much around here. There's barely anything at some places. So yeah, whenever we can, and it's not like we buy lots of things. We buy what we need or what looks good and what we feel like for dinner. Same as anything like shopping.
Yeah, the boat's filled up with non-perishables, and then we just buy fresh fruits and veg and baguettes whenever we
for
find
sure.
them.
Okay, next one. Do you eat fish every day?
We
Not
used to.
anymore. In the Cape Verde, we ate fish almost every day if we wanted to. It was so plentiful and really fun, and the clarity was really good in the water. So we almost spearfished whenever we could, whenever we wanted,
Yeah.
outside of Mandela. Mandela was a bit miff. But now we actually haven't eaten much fish at all.
No, we're in the rivers now, on the deltas, and the water is very murky and not clear at all. So spearfishing it's not an option anymore,
And I should have bought a throwing net so I could have got bait.
fishing with the rod is another game. It's a lot more patience and it's just a whole other technique.
We haven't really tried that much.
No, we've just dropped the
should.
hook like, yeah, let's fish, and then just kind of quit it pretty
Your brother
fast.
did that. I didn't do it. But we'll get into it. We'll get a fish soon. Check it out. Do you bother wearing clothes when you're at sea? We do,
For sun
but
protection.
since Nick left, we've been a little more free, I suppose. We've
yeah.
coming over from Cape Verde to here, we spent half of every day pretty much naked if we wanted to. The weather was very nice. There was hardly any wind. The water was warm, so it kind of made sense. But yeah, it's kind of whatever we want. So yes and no, I guess.
It does feel better to be naked, obviously. Especially to swim naked rather than swimming with a
Yeah, we're swimming naked a lot actually.
with a swimsuit and
We
stuff.
swim naked quite a lot. It's
But
quite
then-
remote here. There's not many people around, so you kind of
Yeah.
it kind of feels cool. These are yours.
Siguientes. Okay.
This
There's
is
some,
cut for the English people, but we can maybe
some
we just
Spanish.
tell you the Spanish ones in English and we answer them anyway.
Are you gonna try and press with your
No,
Spanish?
probably not. Eh?
Come on. Ow.
See, that's what happens. Instant karma.
Mosquito bites. Okay, some Spanish questions. Supongo que será la pregunta más preguntada, pero ¿cómo lo financiáis? Bueno, es un poco como la otra pregunta que hemos tenido antes, pero lo financiamos con ahorros. Los dos trabajamos en la industria de los barcos, de los yates, y es una industria pues que por suerte está bien pagada y hay mucha rotación en lo que va siendo pues posiciones de empleo, ¿no? Entonces en cualquier momento puedes trabajar durante 3 meses, 2 meses, hay muchos tipos de rotaciones y es fácil ahorrar. Entonces, bueno, pues hasta ahora hemos estado viviendo de ahorros. Los primeros 2 años de este estilo de vida íbamos compaginando navegar con hacer parones y trabajar. Pero desde que nos hemos ido de Europa, pues todo queda lejos, no es tan fácil subirse a un avión y además también queríamos como comprometernos más con este estilo de vida y no volar tanto y vivir como este viaje de manera continuada. Así que con ahorros y cortando muchos vicios. Pero bueno, se acerca el momento en el que tengamos que volver a trabajar. Igual después de cruzar el Atlántico haremos algún replanteamiento, pero lo ideal sería encontrar trabajo allá donde estemos, adaptarnos a lo que sea. La prioridad es como disfrutar de este viaje.
She loves to talk, eh?
Sí, sí.
She
Vale.
goes for it. Next one.
¿Cuánto tiempo planeáis tener este estilo de vida? ¿Cuánto tiempo, amor?
Siempre para siempre.
¿Quién sabe? Como que va a días, ¿no?
Until it's fun.
Sí, nuestro lema es un poco que lo vamos a hacer siempre y que sea divertido. Si en algún momento que deja de ser divertido y supone más esfuerzo que diversión, pues habrá que hacer un replanteamiento. Y nada, nos va a días. Hoy por hoy estamos muy contentos. Queremos como tener este estilo de vida pues al menos por los 5 años que están por venir. Pero bueno, hay días que también es agobio y hacemos 2 años más, vendemos este barco y vemos si nos compramos otro barco o si hacemos un parón y volvemos como a una vida normal. ¿Quién sabe? Difícil pregunta, la verdad. ¿Cómo cocináis? ¿Hacéis 3 comidas al día?
Sí, más o menos.
Más o menos, ¿no?
3 o 2.
3 o 2. No tenemos horarios. Es como, bueno, hacemos un
When we
poco de ayuno intermitente, a little bit, y luego pues la comida más grande suele ser la cena, la verdad. Sobre todo ahora que durante el día hace calor, no apetece tanto atiborrarse. Y cocinamos como en una casa normal, ¿no?
Sí, we eat really well.
Tenemos 2 fuegos, 2 fogones que van con gas, un horno pequeñito donde podemos hacer pan y pasteles y pizza y cositas así. Y
And you like to cook.
sí, me gusta cocinar,
Sí.
la verdad. Así que
La
nada,
verdad.
como en una casa, solo que en plan minimalista. ¿Cómo lavamos la ropa?
En la lavandería.
En la lavandería, sí. Bueno, ahora ya no. Hasta ahora, hasta que estábamos en Europa,
hoteles.
en la lavandería. Y desde que hemos llegado a África, pues hemos hecho un par de coladas a mano, currazo. Y si no, pues en los lodges que hay aquí por los ríos,
Sí.
hemos dado una vez nuestra ropa a lavar y la verdad que, bueno, se hace todo a mano. Aquí no hay máquinas de lavar. Y haces menos colada que en una casa, usas más la ropa, tienes una mentalidad un poco más sostenible de lo que luego va a costar a nivel de agua, etcétera, etcétera, lavar la ropa.
Etcétera, etcétera.
¿Cómo son las relaciones? Tú puedes leer en español, venga.
¿Cómo son las relaciones con las personas que encontráis?
Bueno, es una pregunta muy genérica. Por lo general son muy buenas. Depende de qué país, ¿no? Pero por lo general son encuentros muy genuinos, que vienen cargados como con mucho interés, porque te ven llegar en barco, te preguntan sobre tu estilo de vida. Nosotros también llegamos a lugares pues muy remotos donde llega poca gente y bueno, suelen ser encuentros muy bonitos. Te medio entiendes o no medio entiendes, pero al final la gente siempre te acaba invitando a su casa a tomar algo. Y son encuentros interesantes, la verdad. What do you think?
Siempre la verdad, ¿eh? La verdad, la verdad.
Muletillas.
Okay, next question's for you.
But what do you think about the people we find? Like it's
Amazing.
amazing, ¿eh?
Super cool.
Es un buen toque
Increíble.
de realidad, como
Sí.
otras perspectivas, otras mentalidades. Sobre todo ahora que nos hemos ido de Europa,
Gente más,
ha sido un gran
muy
punto de
amable.
inflexión.
gente de tierra. People of the earth, ¿no?
Sí. ¿Para cuándo un hermanito para Shaka?
I don't think I heard you.
¿Para cuándo un hermanito para Shaka?
Mm-hmm.
Aún no. Hay planteamientos, pero faltan unos añitos.
Shaka's enough already.
Sí. Hemos empezado con Shaka este año, a ver.
Shaka es suficiente.
Sí. Ya llegará, yo qué sé. Ya lo veremos. Es obviamente un proyecto a futuro, pero no es una prioridad ahora mismo.
Es verdad.
¿Cómo decidís vuestro próximo destino? Pues...
El viento, el seasons of the year.
Sí, o sea, obviamente dependemos de los elementos de la naturaleza.
Sí.
Hay que seguir ciertas temporadas para navegar, para ir a algunos destinos en concreto. Donde estamos ahora, en Senegal, por ejemplo, pues fue una decisión un poco de salirnos de la ruta como más popular de navegantes. Nos llamaba mucho la atención África, Jay es de África. Bueno, era un poco como retornar a un lugar así como de vida más sencilla, menos civilizada, en según qué aspecto obviamente, ¿no? Pero nos apetecía explorar la cultura de aquí.
Like here's a good example where we're here as long as we can because it's going to rain in May or June and then we have to leave. So
yeah.
then the next destination is we're not really sure yet.
Sí, por ejemplo, aquí teníamos eso, que venir ahora en la temporada de seca de no lluvias, ¿no? Y luego también pues por geografía, ¿no? Pues queríamos ir a Senegal, lo siguiente que es Gambia, bueno, pues vamos a Gambia, estamos al lado. Guinea-Bissau, bueno, a lo mejor ya veremos, ¿no? Un poco sobre la marcha, vivimos bastante en el presente y nada, es según lo que nos apetezca, según el tiempo, el periodo del año y ya está. Y la última pregunta.
Tan, tan, tan. Tan, 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 tan.
¿Os habéis encontrado alguna vez con piratas o alguna situación peligrosa? Bueno, esto es una pregunta un poco que igual se podría responder con las primeras preguntas, pero...
And last night we had a guy bump into the boat.
Sí, bueno, pues mira, ayer por la noche estábamos durmiendo.
It's 2 in the morning.
Aquí, o sea, en plan, estamos como justo un poquito más abajo, no hay nadie. Y hay como aldeas por aquí cerca en el delta de pescadores, de son aldeas pequeñas de 100, 200 personas máximo. Y a las 2 de la mañana o a las 3 de la mañana, de repente Jay me despierta gritando: hay alguien en el barco. Y yo, ¿cómo hay en el barco? Y dice, bueno, en el barco no, pero hay una piragua de un pescador que está como, bueno, se ha cogido a nuestro barco y está como aquí al lado, agarrado. Y yo, ¿qué? Y nada, y Jay salió, el hombre se fue y no acabamos de entender muy bien qué pasó. Hubo un sentimiento un poco de peligro, así de primeras, ¿no? La mente salta a la creencia de quieren algo, nos quieren robar, pero luego la verdad que no pasó nada y nos fuimos a dormir tan tranquilos.
Super tired.
Estábamos muy cansados.
Super sleepy.
Pero bueno, así piratas, ¿no? Y situaciones peligrosas, pues tampoco, ¿no? Simplemente,
It's pretty safe out here.
sí, es bastante seguro aquí. Bueno, nos hemos sentido muy seguros
Sí.
y,
Feel safe.
y las experiencias han sido siempre positivas.
Hopefully no pirates ever.
Tocamos madera. And
Thanks so much. That's it.
bilingual Q&A,
Bye.
preguntas y respuestas bilingües.
Yeah.
We might put some subtitles there.
Or cut them and have 2 different videos.
Yeah, but yeah, we just took some questions. Hope you like the answers we gave you, and
Sorry, we kind of winged it.
And
Pretty
yeah, and we can do these as often as you guys
Are interested.
are interested. Yes.
Cool.
Thanks so much for watching, and until the next time. Hasta la vista.
Hasta la vista, baby. Cheers, guys. Thanks so
Ciao.
much. Fuck you. It's okay.
Hopefully it recorded.